Now that we're done with the discussion about cost, we are good to talk about our revenue. We know that profit of a firm is equal to total revenue minus total cost. So now that we're done with total cost, we will discuss total revenue to understand the profitability of a firm. Why does profit matter? Because the goal of a firm is to maximize total profit. So once we know our cost and revenue, we can then look into our profit and find out ways to maximize it. We distinguish three revenue concepts: total revenue, average revenue, and marginal revenue when we're discussing any firm. So let's start with total revenue. Total revenue simply is total income that a firm makes. It is also called sometimes total expenditure because that's the expenditure a firm sort of receive from consumer. And we say this, that this expenditure is made up of price times quantity. So let's say if the price of a good is $10 and if the quantity bought is, let's say, 20 units, then the total revenue a firm will make, for example, will be 20 times 10 or $200. Now, when we look at average revenue is simply the amount the firm earns per unit sold. Average revenue is also simply AR, which is equal to TR over Q. So for example, if a firm receives a revenue of $200 and they are selling 20 units, then I can say that the firm has an average revenue is equal to, for example, $10 in this case. Now, in other words, I can also say this, since total revenue is price times quantity and the denominator is quantity, I can say that the average revenue is also equal to the price of the good, because ultimately this is what the firm receives per unit sold. The last concept to look at is what we call marginal revenue. What is marginal revenue? Well, marginal revenue is the extra revenue that we get from selling one more unit per period of time. So, for example, if a firm is selling, let's say, one extra unit, how much sort of extra revenue do you get? And in terms of the formula, marginal revenue is simply change in total revenue over change in quantity of output. And we can do a simple example to understand this. So let's assume price before was $10, and because we are selling more from 12 to 13 units, let's say I reduce my price to $9, and let's see what happens to our total revenue and marginal revenue. So our total revenue will be, for example, $120. This is the revenue because I am selling one more unit, while my total revenue later on is, for example, 13 times 9 or $117, which means my marginal revenue is a change in total revenue, which will be 117 minus 120 or a minus 3. So what we can see is this: when the firm is trying to sell an extra unit by reducing the price, their total revenue is not increasing but decreasing, and that's because the marginal revenue is negative.